Hey everyone, welcome to episode 17. I'm NetherCloud, and today we're starting out in a giant hole in the ground because it's time to bring you guys a status update from Project Darkwater. When last we left, we were draining out the ocean with sand and sponges and preparing for our dig project, which as you can see, we've made some progress on. Albeit a bit slower than I would have liked, we are getting the job done. The reason it's been going slowly is because, as I mentioned in previous videos, we needed to bank a whole bunch of cobbled deep slate and cobblestone for other projects in our world. We've filled our coffers a bit with those resources and started moving on to harvesting everything out using the moss method. This is substantially faster than picking out the blocks by hand, but it's not quite fast enough. So we're going to use some TNT to ramp up the process. A lot of you out there are probably thinking, Nether, are you going to be using TNT flying machines? And the answer to that question is no, not at the moment. It's been a few years since we started this world, and since I've done absolutely no duping whatsoever, I thought we would continue with that trend, but I do reserve the right to change my mind later. This little array here with lights, which are going to be replaced with dispensers, is the pattern we're going to be using with our TNT. It's going to be a little bit manual, but is still going to be much faster than the methods we have been using previously. Although the moss does come in handy because I don't want to be blowing up TNT next to the walls. These are going to stay relatively the shape they are, with a few minor manicuring projects along the way to make it fit the build. That being said, we're going to use the moss to kind of cut a border around the outside ridge as well as around the center column. That way, when we use our TNT, we're only blowing up the blocks that we absolutely need to. Now, since we're not duping, we need a ton of TNT, and we are going to solve that problem with this hideous black box in the air. Don't worry, it is a very temporary structure, and as you might have guessed, it's a creeper farm. I watched a Logical Geek Boy tutorial on creeper farms, not necessarily because I wanted to copy the design and use it as is in the world, but because I needed to refresh myself on some creeper mechanics. I'll put a link to his video in the description because most likely that is going to be the big creeper farm that we make at the main base when we get there. We're not doing that in this episode because I really didn't want to take that much time away from Darkwater, as it is the primary project at the moment. The other project we're working on, as you guys know, is the Rose District, and these two projects are very synergistic. A lot of the resources that we're taking out of here we're using to build over there. Now, I've been AFKing here for a bit, so we've got a decent amount of gunpowder, and I will continue to do so that we can get as much as we need because we are going to need a lot. As you can see, the project is so big that on a 16 chunk render distance, we can't even render the whole thing in from out here. So that's going to be a lot of TNT. That array I just showed you uses 16 per explosion, so a stack of TNT is just 4 presses of the button. We're going to need a lot, and I have no problem with that. It's going to be a fantastic process, and I look forward to doing it. So, without further ado, let's get into the first time-lapse of the episode with a nice explosion. Fast forward. It turns out that gunpowder isn't even going to be the bottleneck that slows us down on this one. We're running through sand at an alarming rate, and given the amount that we needed to drain this ocean, I find that absolutely staggering, but it is the reality that we live in. The process of using the TNT array was quite efficient, and we made quick work of this terrain. We also had considerably more control than I anticipated, so we're going to be able to forego the giant trench that I was talking about around the perimeter, and we'll just have to do a little cleanup over here. That's perfectly fine with me, and I think overall the process is going to be net positive on time, which is great because we can spend that time getting more sand. That being said, we are going to have to blow all of this up eventually, just not in this video. If you guys would like to see the process, I'm going to be streaming it on my Twitch channel. I'll have the links down in the description to that channel as well as all of my other socials. Speaking of the mining desert, I'd actually like to take you guys over there for a quick peek. I don't think I've ever shown you guys what it looks like, and since destruction seems to be the theme of the episode so far, I thought you'd like a quick look at how much damage we've put in, digging out almost 600,000 sand. It's getting ridiculous. Here we are, and as you can see, we've annihilated quite a bit of this desert. I'm going to fly up here so you guys can get a better look at how far out we've gone with our destruction. And you'll see this line over here is where we started with our nether portal, and then we started working our way over in this direction. It's a pretty big desert. It doesn't go much further over here, but it does go quite a ways on this side. And eventually, once I've completely pulled every last piece of sand out of here, there will be another mega build that we'll be replacing this biome with. I thought it would be nice to clean this place up, and I've got an idea kicking around in my mind, but I have too many ideas for mega builds. I've talked about a lot of them on the videos and in stream, so I'm not going to go into this one here because it's a long way off. Not only do we have to remove all the sand, but then we got to get done with whatever project we're working on. And since I don't even know what that'll be when that time comes, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Not all of this was harvested for dark water, obviously. We did need quite a bit to remove lava over at the Nether Hub, and some of it was made into glass for that and other projects. But I do like to try and maintain the use of villagers for my glass needs because sand is not renewable and villager trading is. Villagers are a very powerful tool, and I try to lean on them any chance I can because it's a lot easier and more convenient to do so than it is to come out and harvest all the blocks by hand. We are eventually going to be upgrading our villager trading hall. It's fantastic, and we've got all of the library books, but another thing that I want to do on a large scale is being able to trade. I'd like to have a raid farm and more trades than are really humanly necessary because, you know, that's what we do here in this world. And speaking of things that we do here in this world, we like to strive for a little bit of balance. So, since the first half of this episode has been about total chaos, destruction, annihilation, explosions, you know, all that delicious stuff, I thought we'd flip the coin on its head a little bit and do a little building, since creation is the flip side of destruction. So let's go over and do a little building project. For those of you coming directly in from the previous video, this place will look familiar. We built this large-scale custom tree that you see behind me, and I don't know about you guys, but every time, and I mean every time I build a custom tree, I'm thoroughly convinced that it's gonna turn out to be a complete train wreck up until pretty much the point where I place the last block. It's definitely an exercise in trusting the process, and you'll find that when you do, you're often pleasantly surprised by the outcome. That was also the case with this project down here, which is a barracks. If you haven't seen the previous episode, you should go check it out when you're done here. This was a really fun project. We also have some unfinished projects that are hanging out around here, namely the interior of this hobbit hole. I've never actually dug this out. I've had plans for it for a long time, but you guys know me. I get distracted by mega projects and farms and, you know, decorating and all those little things around. But the reason I want to get at this today is this section of the Rose District is almost filled in. We do have more to do over in that direction by a long margin, but if you'll notice where the road cuts around here and then links back up with the river, we've almost completed this little island of detail here. So I'd like to finish that out by putting this together And since we've already had a time lapse of removing some world, I'm going to skip forward a little bit past digging this out and check back in with you guys when we're ready to start putting a few blocks in. I've dug out the rough shapes for this build, and I think this is going to be a really great place to start. We're going to make a central column here for a little bit of support. We'll put a reading nook over here with a cute little window for lighting to come in. Over in this corner, we're going to have a little seating nook, maybe some kitchen stuff. I'm not quite sure, but I think it needs a space over here, so we'll roll with that. And then in here, we'll have a quaint little bedroom for whoever our resident is. There's access to what will be a spiral staircase that goes up through our tree to the tree house. And over in this section, we have access to what will be our boathouse. We'll fill this area in with water, dig out some nice shapes, and connect it up to the river so that our boats can float on out to wherever they want to go. I'm gonna do the flooring up next, probably some pillars, supports, and all of that, and then we'll do some more detailing and figuring out from there. That's coming along very nicely. I started on the floor and with the pillars because that's where my imagination went as I walked into the room, but I think it's important in any build to start where you feel inspired. Whether that is a ceiling, a floor, or even just a small detail in a corner, whatever gets the creative juices going is a good starting point. Now that's just my opinion, and others may vary, but that one is mine. A cool little thing that happened while I was working on this is we had a skeleton horse event, and I managed to kill all 4 of the skeletons and acquire us some new pets. They'll go to where they need to shortly, but I don't want to get too distracted with side quests at the moment. In here, I was thinking we would carpet the bedroom, but I'm really not liking it, and I also tried to use the black wool over here as a transition between the stair blocks. Since we're going into an area that's going to have a lot of moisture down here, I thought maybe we could imagine these as rubberized treads, but I'm not sure on this one, and I'm definitely sure I don't like the bedroom. This little nook here is actually going to be a secret passage because you guys know I love secret passages. But I think next what we're going to do is work on the reading nook and the window. Like I said, you got to follow the inspiration, and my inspiration is telling me to put up some bookshelves and some cute little couches and chairs in here so that we can get a nice homely feel going, and then we'll move on from there. So we're going to do a quick time skip. That's a nook that I would be absolutely stoked to read in. We've even got a little potted plant over here to keep us company while we sit on our beautiful couch. I stuck in a warm carpet because we might get a little chilly on our toesies with these plank floors. And believe it or not, the most difficult part of this whole thing was to get the shaping out here. Not because of the window itself, but because I had to do a little bit of terraforming and moving around of the grass and flowers so that we could get it to look right in context. My brain was hardwired on Inside for today, so it was a little bit difficult to shift gears. But I like to push the boundaries of comfort, as I've said many times, and I think it's important that when you're not feeling it, you still make an effort, because it's a great growing opportunity. I'd like to move on next to the stairs over here. This has been in my brain for a long time, so it shouldn't be quite as difficult as some of the pieces of that were, but we've set a nice tone here. And I think we're going to stick with some of the natural looking stone style roof up here, as if we're propping up some of this little cavern, but we will make adjustments as necessary and try out different block pieces to maybe transition to something else for the different rooms and give us a bit of variety. Let's slap in some stair blocks and see what we can do about lighting and a few other things in here, and then we'll move on to the next bit. All right then, I may have gone just a tad further than working on the staircase itself by installing this wall here and that one over there, but I felt it necessary to frame it out a little bit to get a sense of whether I actually liked what I was doing. And I still may pull out some of these cracked blocks because we're kind of shaping up to have a pretty clean looking build over here, so this may be a little bit too far on the aging, but I'd like to get a little bit more work done before I make that decision, and there's gonna definitely be a final detailing phase at the end. So we'll have plenty of time to address that and any other issues that crop up in the meantime. Let's take a quick little peek in here. The bedroom is evolving. Is it in its final form? Absolutely not. This one is definitely gonna be the bane of the project. I can't seem to really
love anything. So we're just gonna back out for now. We're gonna close this door and we're gonna pretend that it doesn't exist. We don't see a door. There is no door. However, there is a nice little space over here that needs some love. So we're gonna place a few blocks and see what we can come up with. Cozy is the word that comes to mind when I look at this scene. This fireplace just kinda came together, so I made this just a quaint area for relaxing and enjoying the fire, and we threw a couple of pictures up on the wall. I still haven't messed with the bedroom, and just so you guys know, this is very new to me. I don't think I've ever used prismarine blocks in any build anywhere, but I really like the way it looks. There are a couple of sea lanterns up behind these trapdoors, and I think that gives a nice lighting effect, and yeah, all in all, pretty happy with this. Now it's time to finish a few things up. I did try to bring the prismarine over to the center here, not quite sure if I like it, but I want to get this room complete, so we're going to put a few bits and bobs in here, to decide on a final ceiling design, and then all that's left is to get down to our boathouse. And I can't wait. With the magic of editing, our interior project is now complete. Well, almost. I still haven't done the boathouse down here, and I think that's going to take a little bit more time than I have to put into this project, and as I said, I'd like to get this out to you guys within our lifetime. There'll be plenty of time to catch up on that on stream, and I do have a few hours coming up in the next week or two where I could just noodle with it a little bit. We've really got a good look going on here, and for those of you curious about our secret passage, I even did that up a little bit. This leads up to our wall. Let's just take a quick peek right now, so we can get here to defend quickly. It's a neat little addition to any world to have secrets, and you guys know that I love them. Everything in here really turned out great. The kitchen nook over here has a cake lamp, some water, some burners. I used fires to give the smoking effect, and we put pictures up all over the place, as well as using our sea lantern and trapdoor trick to give some overhead lighting here, much like we did in the living room, because, you know, one good turn deserves another. One of the other things I mentioned at the beginning of this video was synergy. And you guys might wonder what synergistic activities are going on while we're building a cute interior that could possibly relate back to Project Darkwater. But underneath here is our main base, and that base has a wool farm. I dyed all of the sheep to black so that we can be pulling in a whole bunch of the blocks we need for Darkwater while we're over here working on the Rose District. As I said, synergy. I like to make sure that all of the builds in the world are complementing each other. And with this, we should be able to make considerable progress, even though this is a solo world. I'm very much looking forward to getting to the building part of Darkwater once we finish all of those explosions from earlier. But for now, I think we're just about out of time on this video, so I hope you guys join me on Twitch and in the next one. You guys have a wonderful evening and be well.